Hi, everybody, and welcome to Gotham Baseball Live. I'm Mark Healey, and Peter, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. How you doing?
I'm good. I am good. I'm excited about baseball. I'm excited about it's March. It's Friday the 13th, so I'm not so excited about that. But I'm excited. Baseball is popping, and we've got a great guest coming on today, Suzyn Waldman, longtime radio voice of the New York Yankees. She's been around for so many different iterations of the Yankee organization. So it's going to be exciting to talk to her later.
Yeah, no question. I've known Susan for a long time, going back, and I think I'm going to share a funny story when she's on because I was an intern at WFAN summer of 1988 between my junior and senior year at college, and that was my first interaction with Susan. I'll save the details. I don't think I've ever shared the story with you, but I want to share a funny story. I think she'll get a kick out of it, and I think enough time has passed by. And I think it's okay to tell the story. Not that it's anything bad, but I think it's a funny story that I'll share later when Susan's on.
That's what we're going to have to do. You and I are going to have to share our WFAN intern stories.
That could be a whole show.
It could be. Anyway, obviously, with the news that Carlos Beltran is going to have his number retired, that is certainly, as we did a couple of weeks ago when we talked about CC Sabathia getting his number retired in
Mhm.
Monument Park with the Yankees. The Beltran thing, surprisingly to me, has opened up some debate amongst Met fans. When you first heard that his number was being retired, what did you think?
You know what? I have to be honest with you. I had the same reaction when I first heard about CC. I said, "Oh, really? They're going to retire his number?" And then you have to take that deep dive into the numbers. And with Carlos Beltran, it's a little more complicated than CC because CC had that first big part of his career with the Indians, then had a very brief tenure with the Brewers, and then finished up with a lot of years with the Yankees. So you go back and you look at the numbers, and it makes sense. With Carlos Beltran, I think it's a little more convoluted because you look at his career statistics, and he played 6.5 years approximately with the Mets, which was the longest stretch of time he played with any team. The Royals were probably the second most time after that. But you look at his numbers: 280, 149 home runs, 559 RBIs, and 869 OPS, and those are really really good numbers. And I think at that point, it really comes down to what the player meant to the franchise when he was there. And I think he did mean a lot. And at that point, it comes down to ownership. It comes down to the fans. Is he a Mets? Is he worthy of the highest honor that a team can bestow upon a player? I could go either way on this. I'll lean towards yes, but you watched him a lot more closely in a Met uniform, and I'll defer to you. I'll lean towards yes, but I can go either way. What do you think?
I don't think there's any question. As I wrote yesterday, and I'm putting together the final column today because we're not going to talk about it today because it's its own show. But Gary Carter's the other guy, in my opinion, that needs to have his number retired.
No
But that
question.
that that's another story for another day. Look, it's a no-brainer to me.
My
My
wife really wants his number. He was my wife's favorite player. And it's
well,
funny because my wife Cheryl's favorite player was Gary Carter. My favorite player was Thurman Munson. So we both love the catchers.
that's it. Mrs. Schwartz is a very, very smart person.
Yeah.
Obviously, she married you. She loves Gary Carter.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a no-brainer. The only reservation I had was that the Mets themselves might not be as quick to retire his number simply because was he going to go in as a Met? And as we all know, or at least I thought we all knew, the Baseball Hall of Fame has the final say of what cap, what logo goes on the cap, or what team does that player go in. And I wasn't sure, just because I've always felt that there's always a conspiracy against the Mets when it comes to everyone. And I thought that because there aren't as many Royals in the Hall of Fame, maybe they would kind of lean towards that's where he started his career, or those types of things that would come into play. But for me, when I look at it, I feel like to me, he's the best position. Him and Mike Piazza are the best position players I've ever seen for the New York Mets, along with Darryl Strawberry, along with some other players, obviously, that we could sit and name. But if we're talking about Carlos Beltran, nobody played center field and played that position and played at such a high level. The problem with, I think, why fans are mixed, or Met fans at least, are mixed on the Beltran retirement thing, is because he played during a time when the Mets were supposed to, that 2016 was supposed to win the World Series that year, and they didn't. And,
Yeah.
Beltran, the whole call third strike thing. But to me, that's ridiculous. I mean, the Mets were a completely dysfunctional franchise while he was there. Jeff Wilpon was like the real GM. So many things happened. It was just so much dysfunction in the clubhouse. Firing Willie Randolph the way they did, and all that stuff that happened. A lot of ugly stuff behind the scenes. I was covering the team at that time on a regular basis, and to me, Beltran, he. The thing about Beltran is that he wasn't the kind of player. He wasn't an emotional player. He wasn't a demonstrative player. And there was always that, his first year was such a tough year. There was a lot of, he's going to be George Forster, like that type of thing,
Mhm.
high profile, solid player. But to me, it's a no brainer. I'm glad they're doing it. And really, it's going to be a special day. I really
Yeah.
believe that.
I think there's another layer, and I think we're gonna get to Suzyn Waldman in a couple of minutes because I think she's waiting in the waiting room.
Yes,
But
she's
the other
in the waiting room.
the other factor in this also is he was going to be the Mets manager. And
Yes,
obviously the whole Houston Astros, garbage can,
right.
debate, force the Mets to go in another direction. So I'm sure that's going to be something that weighs on people when they think about this. But I think if you block out all the noise and you just look at the numbers, he's obviously a Mets Hall of Famer. He's a baseball Hall of Famer, and I will lean in the direction that he is deserving of having his number retired. It's interesting because uh, you talk to different fans, you're going to get different opinions. I remember when the Mets were going to retire Keith Hernandez as number 17. And I remember it was announced that week, and a Saturday morning, I go into FAN to go do my update shift. And a big Mets fan is one of the producers there. And he was livid. He couldn't believe the Mets were retiring Hernandez's number because he didn't think he deserved it. And I'm like, why didn't you think he deserved it? Because he didn't play long enough. And I said, well, here's an example of where I think a player's complete history with a team was a good reason because, yeah, in terms of years, did he play a lot of years for the Mets? I think he played enough. And number two, he wound up coming back to the team as a longtime broadcaster. I
Right.
think you compare it to the Islanders retiring Butch Goring's 91. Butch Goring was not an Islander player very long, but he was also their head coach, an assistant coach, and a longtime broadcaster. So I think there's a way you retire the number for the totality of work that you put in with the franchise. So I look at it the same way. With Beltran, it's a little different because he played for so many other teams and had that issue with the Astros. But I think if you just block all of that out and get down to the meat and potatoes of his Mets career, I think he's deserving of it.
If the Mets weren't a dysfunctional mess, I don't think he would have left the Mets. I think he probably would have ended his career with the Mets. But the problem is
Yeah,
the Mets were dysfunctional mess,
yeah,
and it is what it is. But I'm glad that you brought up Butch Goring because Butch Goring, like Keith Hernandez, was a catalyst. The guy that changed the way that the team did things. And I think that's a great comparison. So
yeah.
without further ado, let's bring in Suzyn Waldman. I guess I hope I don't know if she's ready yet, but when she's ready, she'll throw on.
Oh, there
There
she
she
is.
is.
There I am.
Hi, Suzyn. How are you?
I'm great. I'm sorry I don't have a good background for you. I'm in this hotel room and it's not very pretty. I would have decorated if I knew you were, well, this is the best I could do.
No, it's fine, and thank you so much. Welcome to the show with me and Mark. And I was telling Mark before you joined us. And I want to start with this because we'll have plenty of time to talk about the Yankee season. But I wanted to go back. I don't know if you remember this. I remember this like it's yesterday. The first time you and I ever interacted, I was an intern at WFAN between
Yes, you were.
my junior and senior year in college. So it's the summer of '88, and they really hadn't shown me completely how to take in tape from you when you were out on the road with the Yankees.
Oh God, did
So
I yell at you?
no, not really. You were very, very patient with me. So for some reason, I think some people were missing from the newsroom, and they said Suzyn's in Oakland, and she just did an interview with Tom Seaver, and she needs to send that because back then it's not digital. You had to like
Right.
in real time send it
You,
over, and I had to record it on reel to reel,
that's
and they
right.
didn't show me how to do it yet. And I think we tried it 3 times and it didn't work. And I have to tell you, I was sweating and I was getting really, really upset with myself because I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I just want to thank you all these years later. We've become very good
Ah,
friends over the years of me covering the Yankees on and off for different places. I just always felt like that was a really absurd, like first meeting that you and I had where I was this, punk intern that couldn't figure out how to take in your interview with Tom Seaver.
well, back then, and people have to understand when they say cut tape, we really cut tape. You had a
Yeah.
little razor and a little piece of tape, and you cut it if there was something wrong. If somebody said, I don't want you to record that. The other thing is that when I was on the West Coast, like the guys back in the East Coast were giddy, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's probably 11 o'clock at night where I am. So you know, they probably went home. They figured, oh, it's just Oakland. Who cares? But it's kind of interesting. No, I don't remember that. I thought you were going to say I yelled at you because I yelled at
No,
plenty of people.
no, you never. I will tell you this: you never yelled at me, and I probably may have done a thing or two to deserve getting yelled at. I get yelled at by family all the time, but
Well,
no, you know,
one of the things I remember saying to different people is, "You've got one thing to do: to sit there until I call in with tape." And now you can't do it. Couldn't you have figured this out? I remember I could hear myself yelling, "You have one thing to do," but I'm glad it wasn't you.
yeah, it was no, it was not me, and I finally did figure out how to take tape in, so we didn't have a problem again after that.
Yay!
Yeah.
Okay.
Susan, I have so many questions for you. Again, I'm Mark.
Hi, Mark.
It's I have so many questions for you just because, but obviously working with Dave Sims, last year for the first time, was certainly different than working with, the great one. Talk about like I know Dave, so I know how great of a guy Dave is. So what was it like working with Dave Sims last year during the season?
In what way? I mean, he's a professional. I'm a professional. I thought it went quite well. It's different styles, and you have to. I mean, it is obviously different. I worked with John for 20 years, and we've been
Right.
friends for 40 years. So it's a little bit different. But that's the one thing. The first year, you kind of lay back a little bit because Dave, he deserves a chance to get established here. It's really hard. I mean, I don't know how I don't I don't know how much harder it could have been for him because you want to be yourself, but John's been there for 2 generations.
Right.
And he's been there since 1989. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of little kids growing up who are now grandparents who say, the little one is saying Yankees win, Yankees win. And you want them to relax, and I sort of stayed back. You have to have your own personality, but I was very aware of the pressure that he was under. He might not feel it. I can feel it for him.
And I think he did a wonderful job in his
I
first
agree.
year. And we're joined by the great Suzyn Waldman here on Gotham Baseball as the Yankees get set for their 2026 season, going through spring training now in Tampa. And Suzyn, I'm sure you've heard all the noise of this rhetoric about the 26 Yankees, where they're running it back. They didn't really do anything during the offseason. This was
Okay.
a pretty good team last year that went to
That's,
the postseason. So
see,
if they're going to run it back with this team that won over 90 games last year.
all right. Well, let me tell you why it's not really running it back. And you look at the lineup, and yes, there are a lot of things. See, I disagree with that. I disagree with that whole statement in the first
Mm-hmm.
place. This team, the ones who came back, they think they have unfinished business. And I was here in 97 when the Yankees got blown out by Cleveland, and those people came back. I remember Joe Girardi with the anger in his face, and Mariano and the anger. In 98, something else came into that clubhouse. It was the anger that they felt by being knocked out by Cleveland. The other thing is a lot of people were half a year. Ryan McMahon was brought over, for example, to play third base because they didn't literally have a third baseman. They knew about the hitting. They knew about the hitting. We'll fix it next year. We need him here now. A lot of people that came into their own, last year, and they're going to not run it back. I love Paul Goldschmidt coming back because you need an adult in the room. There has to be somebody, and he's really going to help a lot of people, most of all Ben Rice, and being there. And by the way, he does hit left-handers a lot and hits them really hard. And for anybody who says he's finished, he's not hurt this year. He was hurt the whole second half, didn't tell him, tried to play through it, couldn't do it. Now, here's why it's different. If they can tread water or be really good until Garrett comes back, and this is a lot, and here I'm going to say, I don't think he's coming back till July. That's me. When he comes back, he is there. Max Fried goes back to not having to carry the team. Carlos Rodon goes back to being number 3 or 2, whichever they want to do. Mm-hmm. Once a week, bullpen doesn't need to go in there because Garrett Cole is there. It changes everything when he is there. They lost so much without Garrett Cole. You hate to put it on one person. He loves the pressure, but you hate to put it on. But it changes everything. Max Fried is a wonderful pitcher. I don't think I would ever call him an ace. Ace and a half maybe, but not Garrett Cole, not that one. And so it changes things. It puts Max, and I love Max, and he's a great pitcher. To me, got a little tired at the end of the season, tried to stay in a little too long because the bullpen was worn out. Garrett Cole, you put him there, that doesn't happen. And that's why I think this team is different. They got to figure out what's going on with that bullpen. There's people coming and going, and who knows? And right now you're down a couple of starters and you have to get through the beginning of the season. But as far as running it back, what I see with this team is that they're very hungry. They're really upset about last year, and they want a chance to, as they say, finish the job.
I was going to ask you about Max Fried, obviously very important to this team. But you pretty much answered what I was going to ask, that if when Cole comes back, he's obviously not going to have the weight of the world on his shoulders. And also to your statement about they're not running it back. Well, they're going to have their closer for the whole season this year, and they're not going to have to figure out who the closer is. And to me, yes, you're right. The bridge of the bullpen has to be worked out. They got to figure out, how the rest of it fits. But having that closer, in your opinion, for the whole season, Bednar, that's got to be a huge, I think, a boon for the pitching staff.
And it really is, and I'm sorry I forgot about David Bednar, but that's one of those things that he was traded not only for last year, he was traded for this year. And they did that, and they've done that with a bunch of people. And to have him there, he's a real bona fide closer. I don't think anyone would disagree with me that the advent of Devin Williams last year was a mistake in this town and mistake on this team. And it got confusing because I think it confused Luke Weaver, and he tried to do things that he couldn't do. Or they thought that Luke Weaver was a one season, maybe a fluke, and it wasn't going to go well last year, so they got Devin Williams. But I always wondered about that, and it messed up things. And obviously Devin did not have a lot of success here. Maybe he'll be different over in Queens. I don't know. But having David Bednar, who is a true closer, and the one thing, Mark, I love about David Bednar is that David Bednar is tough as nails. I mean, this is the guy who has, the fourth quarter Pittsburgh Steelers song playing when he comes running in. And he also failed in his hometown. Do you know what that must be like to be booed in your own hometown? And they sent him down. I remember asking Derek Shelton, "What's wrong with Bednar?" And he said, "If we knew, Suze, he wouldn't be in AAA." But whatever it was, he figured it out. He is tough as nails, and we haven't had anybody with that toughness in a long time. I mean, it seems like forever. Clay Holmes had it for a while. He was really good here for a while, but that toughness hasn't been here for quite a while, and I am looking forward to him being here for the whole year.
Suzyn, this seems like a silly question. I'm going to ask it anyway, but what does Aaron Judge do for an encore again this year? I mean, it's incredible the career he has put together, and he just every time you think he's reached that apex as a Yankee and as an MVP, he takes it to another level. What does he do for an encore this year?
Well, what he does for an encore is win the World Series. But let's go
Yeah,
back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit. He reminds me so much, and they're very, very different. Derek Jeter, when I first met him, I'm watching Judge doing the same thing. Derek Jeter during the winter, and I haven't seen Judge because he's not here, so I don't know what he's doing. But, well, you see the results have been incredible over there.
yeah.
But Derek Jeter, every offseason, would pick one tiny little thing, and he'd work on that. And he'd come in, and after a few days, I remember saying, "Oh, you worked on going to your left." And he'd said, "How do you know?" And I said, "A little different fit." Well, you watch it, little tiny small things. But when you see every single at bat, you see that he would pick one thing. Aaron Judge does the same thing. Different kinds of things. You did see it. Everybody did see the throw from right field, right? Where he threw out
Hmm.
whoever that
Yeah,
was. Yeah. So,
yeah,
so I guess he's okay. I don't
yeah.
know what he's done this year, but it looks like the timing is really good with him. And I'll have to ask him because every year he does a little bit more. So, and you don't know what it is that he's worked on until you see it every day. What you do for an encore, you win the World Series. I guess that's his biggest thing. I mean, that would be the worst thing in the world if this guy turned out to be like Mattingly and never won. That would be, but we'll see what he's done. I'll let you know. Ask me in June.
Okay, okay, gotcha. Good deal.
One last thing for me, Suzyn, and thank you so much for making time for us today.
Sure.
One last thing for me, and that is Aaron Boone. Obviously, a guy that Yankee fans always seem to be split on. He has the support of the front office. He has the support of ownership. In your mind, does Aaron Boone ever feel that pressure? Does he ever feel like he has to win a World Series, or does he ever feel like, in your opinion, do you ever, like, when you interact with him, when you talk with him, when you interview with him, do you ever feel like he's aware of how the fans feel and just doesn't really care and just does his job? Is that how he's put together?
No, he cares deeply. He cares really, really deeply. He's here, and I wish people would understand.
Mhm.
Billy Martin's not coming back. Buck Showalter is not coming back. And I'm going, and those days are gone. These teams are run unless you're Terry Francona or Bruce Bochy when he won, they can do what they want. He was hired for a reason. He was hired because that's what they want to set up. He feels his own pressure. Don't let the mild-mannered person who you see on the Yes Network fool you. He wants to win as much as anybody, but he was hired to do a specific thing. He's doing it really, really well. To handle all these personalities and to handle all the information. But don't think he's a puppet. He believes in this stuff. He really does. When they had his interview, one of the tests was, here's the picture, here's the situation, and everyone on the analytics team and Aaron Boone had to write out lineups. And here were the people that they got. He was always in lockstep with them. This is who they want. I know fans want him to turn over a buffet table. What good does that do? Can you imagine this group? They take a look and say, "Oh my God, he's lost it." I mean,
That would be a waste of food,
it would
Suzyn,
be
if
a
you threw
waste
over a
of food
buffet.
and break a chair or break a table. To answer your question, Mark, I think what people don't understand, he doesn't he's very aware of everything. He feels everything. He believes in what he's doing, and he's not going to change what he's doing because somebody on Twitter says he should be fired. He understands the fans' frustration, but believe me, he cares as deeply as anybody. He just knows why he was hired, and he's wired wrong. I'll tell you a great story before. Remember the first the stuff in the box, right? For the first fight everybody had when Brett Gardner was doing this and they all got kicked out. And something in the box. Savages in the box. Remember that one?
Savages in the
Screaming and
box.
yelling.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I have the
box.
T-shirt. I have the
Okay.
T-shirt.
His tirade, that was the first time we'd ever seen him do that, right? That tirade. And I talk to Aaron Boone every single day, right? I'm in there for every single day. And I've known him since he got here in 2003. And I walked into the office the next day and I said, you got to tell me, was that you or did you channel your brother for that?
Right.
And
Right.
he said, I'll give you watch a little bit more. And I started watching him more closely. He's got that Brett Boone thing in here. As a matter of fact, Brett is really, really, when Brett yells, he doesn't he told me I don't lose control when I yell. Aaron loses control. So it's not that he channeled his brother. He's got that part of him in it too. We never see it, and you'll never see it. But trust me, from what the players tell me, it's in there. It's like Joe Torre. I heard Joe Torre scream once from out in the hallway. I didn't know what was happening. I thought someone, had no idea. I'd never heard him yell. But I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So it's in there. Just because we don't see it,
Right.
he's not supposed to let you and me see it. But they see it.
Suzyn, I have one more for you. And, I like to have props on the show sometimes. So I wanted to show you a new card. I don't know if we could see it.
I can't.
There it's
Wait.
right in front of me. That's
Yeah.
Spencer Jones.
Right.
That's Spencer Jones. And then here we got George Lombard.
Okay.
And while everybody's got their focus on this season and the 26 Yankees, Yankee fans are getting very excited about those two guys and the possibility that they're on the Yankees somewhere down the road. You've seen them a little bit in training camp, in spring training. What are your thoughts on those two guys, and how big of a factor could they be somewhere down the road for the Yankees?
Well, down the road, George Lombard, I believe, is going to start back in Double-A. And it's funny that you bring this up because I had a long talk with James Rouson, the pitching coach, about Lombard, because everybody agrees, that he could play the infield right now and just it being all. I mean, he's a great shortstop. He's just great. I said to James Rouson, I said, why isn't he hitting? And he said, not you two. Don't go by the numbers in spring training. You don't know what he's working on. I think he's having wonderful at bats. It's just not connecting into hits yet. So they're very pleased with what Lombard has done. He's 19? I mean, he's a baby. So he'll probably start at Double-A and he'll be there. Spencer Jones, and I agree with this. You can't have him or someone like Jason. I don't want Jason Dominguez sitting on the bench again. I don't want him sitting here. I want him down at Triple-A, playing every single day so the Yankees see what they get. So if you have Dominguez in left and Spencer Jones in center, start it that way. You never know what's going to happen. My guess is Randall Grichuk will get that fourth spot, which he should, because that guy was a Yankee killer. If I had to call one more home run for him from Toronto. I think they're going to be there. George Lombard has a way to go. He really does. He's going to be a better hitter than this. And you saw it yesterday. He was playing in front of his father in Lakeland. He struck out a few times, but it's not that he wasn't doing things right. It just didn't work. Sometimes when you have a plan, you have to stick to the plan, and eventually it's going to work. They believe it's going to work. As Rouson said to me, he's had good at bats, not leading up to a hit, which is very different than having bad at bats and getting a hit.
Suzyn, we can't thank you enough for spending some time with us on the show. Enjoy the rest of spring training down in Tampa, and hope to see you in the Bronx very soon.
We'll see you in the stadium. Next time I will decorate whenever we are, and I'll be in a prettier place. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Suzyn.
No problem.
See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Awesome. Suzyn Waldman, longtime Yankee broadcaster, joining us here on Gotham Baseball. I think it was an outstanding interview. We got a lot of information out of her.
Well, Suzyn is a pro. She's just, she knows, she's been around. Like I said before, when we were introducing her, she's been around every iteration almost of the team in one way, shape, or form. Whether it was covering the team for WFAN, whether it was, bringing Yogi back, to Yankee Stadium with George Steinbrenner.
That will always be her, and she's been a great broadcaster. But the fact that she was able to broker that deal with
Yeah,
Yogi and with George made so many Yankee fans happy.
sure.
And I remember I was at Yogi Berra Day when they brought him back,
Right,
and David Cohn is starting, and you have Don Larson throwing out the first pitch to Yogi Berra. And then what does David Cohn do? He goes out
right.
and throws a perfect game.
I mean, that's just, when you're a Met fan and you're watching that, and you're just like, of course that's what happened. Of course that's what happened. But, Coney's a guy I've always rooted for. Yogi obviously is, beloved, just as beloved in Mets land as he is in Yankee land. And, just that whole kind of Yankee aura, that happens. A lot of Met fans can't take it. They hate the Yankees. I get it, but I don't, and I never have. And I think it's because I've covered the team and I've been around the team. And, for me, I just love the way the Yankees have always done things. They're just very professional. And I like that approach. So, and look, at the end of the day, Peter, I think that both teams, we only have a couple of minutes here, but I think both teams have a lot to look forward to this season, 2026. I can't wait for it to get started. But before it does, this WBC thing has got to be figured out. You got 2 games tonight. You've got Korea playing the Dominican Republic, which is the first game. And the second game tonight is USA Canada. I got to be honest. This Team USA team does not give me any kind of, Aaron Judge is one of the easiest guys in the world to root for. But this team, let's put it this way. We'll end it with this. Do you believe that Mark DeRosa misspoke, or do you believe that Mark DeRosa not only didn't know that they didn't punch their ticket, but then doubled down and he really didn't know?
It's funny. I did a poll question on my other podcast on Sports Bash yesterday. Who do you blame the most, Mark DeRosa, Major League Baseball, USA Baseball, or all of the above? And I think it's got to be all of the above.
Right.
But Mark DeRosa is the mouthpiece for it. And I don't know how everybody dropped the ball. I remember watching the beginning of that game and seeing the lineup that he's putting out there, and they're leaving Nolan McLean out there. I'm like, they are throwing this game away, thinking that they're going on. And I wouldn't have known. It's not my job to know unless I would read the rule book.
Right.
So I think it was a total breakdown. They're very, very fortunate that Italy won the other night to get them in. But it is, USA and Canada, and we've seen this before very, very recently, twice at the Olympics. So we'll see how this one goes on the baseball diamond. To go to your point about this team being likable, the NHL players embrace the Olympics.
Yes.
No question about it. They also embrace the Four Nations face-off last year, which took the place of the All-Star game. The hockey players are into all of these international competitions. Now, I believe that all these baseball players on Team USA wanted to be there. They would, if they didn't want to be there, they wouldn't. But when Bryce Harper came out and said, this is not the Olympics, it kind of, to me, and I was excited when we were talking about it last week, I was kind of excited about the WBC. But when Bryce Harper is basically pouring water on it and saying, well, this is not the Olympics, it is still an international competition. You've made a commitment to your country and to Major League Baseball to participate. Well, treat it as such. Treat it like the NHL players treated the Four Nations face-off last year, which clearly is not as big as the Olympics, but they treated it the same. Anyone who watched that USA-Canada final in the Four Nations face-off, they treated that like it was the Olympics. And I don't think this Team USA squad is treating this like it would be the Olympics.
They're not, and whatever. And we could talk about it, next week, when we recap, if what's happening with the WBC. But Peter, great getting Suzyn to come on with us today. Great job. Have a great weekend and enjoy the games. And we'll see you next week here on Gotham Baseball Live.